So, Nicholas Pert is with me, and I want to say congrats for winning the British Championship.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a goal I've been trying to achieve for a very long time, so I guess I finally managed to do it.
Absolutely, yes, great stuff. And after all this long time of not playing over the board, that's even a little bit more impressive. And I also want to let you know of I think you were the favorite to win the tournament rating wise, but that is normally one of the most difficult things to actually proceed with then actually winning the tournament after all. So I really congratulate that. Although you had a rougher start, you came back and got the points in. And luckily enough, Nicholas was kind enough to share his walk through the tournament from the beginning to the start. And we will take a look at, some of the games and the key positions, maybe most of the games. Yeah, I'm very, very curious because I haven't looked at them yet. And yeah, you're free to share, and we will take a look at everything, and you can guide us through.
Great. Okay, thanks. So I'll just share my screen. But yeah, as you said, I was actually the rating favorite, and it's the first time I've been the favorite
Mhm.
because usually one of the top players enters, whether it's sort of David Howell or Michael Adams or one of the sort of big name players will come along, and then they tend to actually end up winning the tournament. Um, I've actually had some years where I've played really well and been very close to winning and not managed it. And probably this year I didn't play that well, but I did actually win. So it kind of, maybe it balanced out overall. As you said, it'd been quite a long time since I'd played over the board chess, and some of the other players had actually played a couple of tournaments, so they were maybe not quite as ring rusty as me. And I got off to quite a slow start, so I thought I could maybe start off by showing one of the mistakes I made in the early game, just to sort of highlight the sort of struggles I had at the beginning.
Absolutely,
Uh,
yeah.
this is a game I played against Bradbury, who's an old international master, and we reached this position, and he was getting a little bit low on time. There's a time control at move 40, and on his last move, he just played this move. He played this move pawn b5 to b4,
Mm.
and he's trying to sort of, I guess, create some confusion because he's a pawn down, and if he plays quite passively, then he's likely to lose. So he's trying to sort of mix it up a little bit. And I think here I just mishandled the situation. I saw his time was a bit low, and I kind of rushed my move a bit here. And I thought I was just going to sort of hustle him a bit and make him blunder and lose, but unfortunately, it sort of worked out the other way around. And
Oh no.
it wasn't not always the best tactic, but sometimes it works.
Mhm.
And what I should have played, or what I could have played here, was simply to take the pawn. And
Yeah.
the key move to sort of, I guess, be aware of here is that black might play the move pawn a3, which might or might not be his best move. He could play probably rook c4 stronger, but then he's definitely a bit worse. But the idea of a3 is just to make this a pawn dangerous, and I can't take the pawn because rook takes knight.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Um,
is it is a little bit it is actually, yeah, when you think about it, then yeah,
you
B4
got
has a little bit of a purpose, and also A3. So it is, you have to take care, it's difficult in my opinion, yeah.
you have to be a bit careful, especially when you're low on time and you're
Mm.
sort of haven't played for a while. You can see the type of position. Okay, something could go wrong here. I mean, obviously he's threatening to now take the pawn on b2, and my knight's a little bit awkward. But I mean, I have got some quite easy ways to deal with this. I think the best move was simply just to play rook e3 here, just defend the knight, and then this pawn's actually going nowhere, and
Mhm.
I can just trade it off for the next move. And another quite simple move here I could play would be rook c5 with a similar idea, just to block the rook's attack
Yeah.
against my knight, and then even if he trades the rook, for example, I can just simply take back, and this a pawn is going to be exchanged because he can't go anywhere with it. So then I would probably end up being two pawns up in the end game, and
Mhm.
I should be able to win.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I just maybe didn't. I just rushed that move a little bit, and I also saw that okay, he could play rook c4, and it's not 100% clear that I'm winning. And I thought I saw a clearly winning move by playing the move knight d5, which
Mhm.
in my opinion, just looked like it was pretty much game over.
True, yeah.
And I thought I was just kind of
F6 or
maybe just even take the b4 pawn or with the pawn or knight and just be winning. And he can't play, like you say, he can't play something like rook c5 because I just play like knight e7 check. And then I win his rook.
That looks very good indeed. So
I
actually wonder what went wrong here.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was a clear blunder because now he came up with this really nice move, knight c6, and he played it like quickly as well. So I was like, oh no! As soon as he played it, I realized that things are not going to be quite so easy because now I have to take his rook, otherwise he simply just captures my knight. And then he takes here, and now his knight's very active on g4, and he's got pressure on both sides of the board. And I think I tried knight e6, rook here, and I think I went for this rook e2 move, trying to give him the option to take on g4, which probably would have been okay anyway. But the game sort of quickly fizzled out into this end game. Knight takes, rook here, rook c8, and I had nothing better than going for this ending, which was very drawish, and it ended up being a draw. So that was slightly disappointing because I drew my first game already against a weaker player. To then draw a second time was getting a bit frustrated at this point. But
can I ask you what mindset did you get into to get out of this? Because this can be absolutely crushing. So you're the favorite. You're drawing against two kind of weaker opponents. Did you even at that point think like, well, okay, I'll just try to play my best now, but I'm probably not winning the tournament anymore?
Well, yeah, actually, my mindset at the time was quite negative. I was just very frustrated, and I wanted to get someone, like anybody, who was just gonna give me the easy win. I didn't care who it was. I thought as soon as I win a game, then I'm back in the game, and I'll move on to the next game. So the next game I actually played against this female player who's trying to become a women's international master, and she's actually quite a decent player. She had some decent results. She drew with Marcus Harvey as one of the favorites, I think, in the first round. And for me, it was like a slightly awkward pairing because it's another one of those players that you should beat, but it's not like guaranteed that you can win. And so I was a little bit uncomfortable with this pairing. But anyway, we got down to this position in a sort of middle stroke endgame, and in this position she made what I'd say like kind of key mistake. One of the ideas I tried to highlight in some of my DVDs is obviously just to try and improve your worst placed pieces and use your most passive pieces. So in this position, it's an opposite color bishop endgame, and I'm trying to win the c3 pawn, so I'm going to try and be a pawn up. But if she simply had played the move rook c1 now, her rook on a1 is very passive, and then traded off that rook for my active rook, and then maybe just start hassling my queen, just keep attacking my queen. There's actually very good drawing chances for white in this position with the opposite color bishops. Okay, I'm still going to play on, obviously, but this kind of position could end up being a draw because white can just try and get some kind of blockade and light squares, and maybe also pressure against my f7 pawn, and can maybe get a draw in this position. Or even rook d3 might not be necessary. But she played in the game the move rook d3, which in my opinion was like quite an unusual choice because this is her d5 rook, was her active rook. So now potentially I'm swapping off her active rook and leaving her with the passive rook on a1. And I think it's obviously, I guess one of the points I tried to cover. You always try to activate your pieces, not leave yourself with the passive piece. So I could play rook to c3, but I found this other move here, queen b6, which I thought looked interesting.
Oh, nice.
Hitting the f2 pawn, and now she should definitely play rook d2 here as the only move, but not an easy move to find because potentially you'd be worried about a bishop takes c3, forking the queen and rook, but she could play queen c2 and pin my bishop to my rook and sort of save herself. But I guess even this position is still a bit uncomfortable for white, but she should definitely go for it. But she played this move rook e3. And now I was in a bit of a dilemma because I saw that I could simply play rook takes c3, and this looked very strong for me because after I take on c3, if she captures back, I just come in with queen takes f2, and then I saw this tactical move and I just couldn't really resist it. So even though I saw rook takes c3, it's like it's probably winning, I went for it anyway just because I thought, okay, I don't know, it was maybe a bit showboating at the time, and I actually played the move rook takes f2, which is a little bit Yeah, a little bit sort of
Wow.
unnecessary, but okay, I felt like playing it. So yeah, rook takes f2, and so she takes back, and now rook takes c3. So it's a whole rook sacrifice, but there's no real way for her to
Yeah.
save the rook on e3. There's no checks on the back row. My queen covers the d8 square. Obviously, the rook's pinned, so she can't really activate. And so she played she played rook b1, but let's say she played, for example, queen d2. Let's just say I can take the rook, and then after queen takes rook. Now, if I trade queens and take the rook on a1, that's probably going to be a drawn ending. But unfortunately, I've got the move bishop d4 here,
Yeah.
and then I win the queen, and that's probably winning for me. So actually, after this rook sacrifice, she's going to definitely lose the rook back again.
Yeah.
And the game just finished off. I mean, now it's just 2 pawns up, and a king was open. She went for, I think, a last desperate try, rook b3, to try and if I take the rook,
working.
she can take, and she's just kind of saving it. But I've got this queen check,
Exactly.
and now after bishop blocks, I just sacrificed on the bishop and take the queen, and it's easily winning. So I thought that was kind of key moment when she sort of went a bit sort of passive, allow me to get my first win. And then the next game I played against this young player, Frederick Gordon, who you probably haven't heard of before.
No.
And he's actually
Wait a second. He's not from Scotland, is he? Or
he is from Scotland, and he did really well in the online tournaments.
Yes. I actually heard of him, and he's actually considered a really, really strong wunderkind.
Yeah, he is exactly. Yeah, exactly. And he actually drew with Michael Adams, and I think he beat some quite strong players. I think he might have beaten Mark Hepton online. He beat some strong players. And so my sort of initial thought was, how can a kid draw with a great player like Michael Adams online? So I was a bit like unsure about it. But then when he played against me, I was like, okay, he's actually quite a good player. There's nothing dubious going on here. So that was. I mean, he gave me a really tough game, and I think he was doing well against Mark Hebden in a couple of rounds earlier, and he'd actually fade off a bit towards the end of the tournament, but obviously he's going to be a really strong player in the future, and certainly much stronger than his 1,500 rating.
I think even Frederick Friedel wrote an article about him on ChessBase. I will post it in the link if I find it, if I'm correct. Maybe I'm wrong.
But he's a very, very, very talented player. Anyway, we got to move 40, and he basically had matched me, for the first 40 moves. And I was kind of expecting him to now play the move rook d3, and after rook d3, I was just going to probably try rook e2 and maybe offer to gambit this pawn, even though I knew it's likely to end up as a draw anyway. With the idea of playing like rook e8 and trying to come around rook h8 and cause some problems with the other rook coming in. But I thought the simplest was for him just to keep offering the rook trade, not let me get my rooks into his position, and just keep offering the rook trade, and then the best I can do is something like rook e7 check and here. And I thought, well, this has got to be a drawn position with best play. So I thought he had quite a good chance of getting a draw against me in this game. So I was a bit like upset, he's going to draw someone 1,000 points lower rated than me.
Of course.
So then after playing like really like a fantastic game, played incredibly well in some really sharp positions, then he played in the game. Sorry, if I go back to the game, he played the move rook c7, which was a kind of bit of a bizarre move, really. I just didn't really understand what he was doing. I guess I thought maybe his idea was to try to trade off like this or something. But the problem is, after rook e8, now my rook's coming around the back to h8. And then the other rook was coming in, and he just, I think, missed completely my idea. So rook h8, king g7, rook e8, probably thinking that he probably thinks that I was going for perpetual or something, but he missed. I've got a checkmating idea here, which is actually to play rook f8.
Beautiful.
And now I'm threatening here. And then he was actually quite sporting in this final position, because it's actually checkmate in one move.
Yeah.
But he played the move pawn h5 here, and allowed me to play en passant checkmate. quite nice. So I've never actually had en passant checkmate before. So it was quite.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, my old chess coach writes in one of the newspapers, and he put as his puzzle, he put this position on the board. He said white to play and checkmate in one move. So
Yeah,
it's
classic.
quite hard for probably people to work out if you think about it what the winning move is. But yeah, obviously quite nice to do it on passant checkmate. But I was probably a bit fortunate in that game to end up winning. And the following game, then I played against Danny Gormally, who was second seed, and that was actually a very solid game. Ended up being a draw without much really happening. Okay. And then the next game I played against Keith Arkell, who's
another strong one.
Yeah, another strong player. He's quite an sort of experienced grandmaster. Yeah. And I was down floating to him, and we played this. I was actually kind of looked at the whole game. We played this opening, which I wasn't completely expecting him to repeat, which we had played we played an online kind of rapid tournament, or 15 minutes each. I don't know if that's rapid or blitz. And we played this game, and in the game, in this position here, I'd played e4.
Yeah.
And I actually thought that I was better in the game anyway, so I didn't expect him to repeat it, but I sort of went slightly wrong at some point and ended up becoming a draw. So when he played it again, I had briefly looked at this position, thinking he might play it again just because he's comfortable with the positions, although I didn't really expect it. I actually prepared this quite unusual move, the move c5 here, which is actually quite a rare move here, but so I think the computer thought it offered white some advantage. And I had actually briefly looked at this, and the only real line that I looked at here was e takes d4, which I think was the computer move, and then after take on d6 takes, I think knight d4 was a novelty, and it thought white was slightly better. So when I played c5, he took on c5 almost straight away, and I was like, okay, I didn't even look at it. I didn't look at this move. What's going on here? But yes, I thought, okay, I take on e5, and I was a bit nervous something was coming, but then he started thinking, so I was like, okay. You know that point when your opponent starts thinking and you know that they're not in their prep. It's sort of quite like it's quite a nice moment, isn't it? Quite a nice moment. You sort of know that you've caught them slightly off guard. But now we played on knight d7, queen f4. Okay, and Ricky was on the move. He played knight a6 to try and bring this knight around. And I saw rook d1 was not bad here. Obviously, that was my first intention, just to play rook d1.
Yeah.
Then he plays knight c7, and if my knight ever moves, he can play knight d5 or knight e6. And but then I came up with another idea, which I think was stronger than rook d1, which is to play knight e4 right away. And then the idea is after knight c7, knight d6, knight d5, before I move my queen, I can play this move knight f5, and he can't take my queen because I just take him with check and win a piece. And so then the point is that he has to move his queen first before I commit my queen, which is quite useful, because if he plays, for example, queen e6, then it allows me to play my queen to g5, which is one
dangerous.
Of the key moves. It could be quite dangerous actually. And then he probably has to play queen g6, and I think this position was a bit unpleasant for black, really, with his pieces were all a bit bottled up. So I think he went for the kind of more ambitious choice and played queen d8, and that sort of covered my queen g5 move. But after queen g4, g6, and e4, we get quite a double position. And I think one where black is pretty under pressure. He's got to be quite careful. I've got a lot of pieces coming to the king side. The only one thing in his favor, like the whole game, was his bishop was lined up with my queen. And you always worry, when the diagonal opens at the wrong moment, something could happen. That was probably the one concern I had in the position. But apart from that, I felt like I was really I had the better attacking chances. So h5. I want to keep the queens on, but I got to stay on this diagonal. It's really frustrating. I just can't get off the diagonal as bishop. But he moves the knight, rook d1, and now if he takes my knight, for example, I think this kind of position is just very, very dangerous.
Yeah, this has to be winning.
Yeah, so many strong threats. Queen 7, rook e1. I think this was the computer line, but it's just like horrible for black. He just can't get his pieces out, and his king's very open. So this was all under control. And then he played knight e6, which was a good move. And this was probably, I'd say, my one mistake of the game. I should have played rook e1 and basically just kept control of the position, because a lot of lines, again, if he takes the knight, I just take back, and I've got this very dangerous attack. But I actually played rook d6, and after I played it, I started to get worried that maybe in this position he can take my knight, because after takes, knight g7, I'm still better if I play rook e1, but it's maybe not quite as clear as some of the other variations, because this knight's protecting this h5 pawn. And the main tactical reason why I can get away with this is if I play the move f6, which looks like it's a very strong move, because if the knight moves, I can queen h5, I'm going to mate him. He's got a really nice tactical resource. He's got this move knight takes e5, and I sort of realized this during the game, and I was a bit worried about this. If I play f6, he's got this knight takes e5 move, and everything's on pre, so I take the queen. But now he takes my knight with check, and that's the key point.
Oh no! And there you go.
Then,
the bishop
then takes
you
my queen. Yeah, exactly takes. And this is an example of one line where actually black comes out on top. Oof. And yeah, so then exactly the bishop lined up with my queen actually ends up costing me in this variation. So I would have had to play rook e1, and I would have been still better. But there's a little bit more work to do in this line than some of the other variations. It's still
certainly, yeah, it
still would have been tricky. So I should have just made sure that he couldn't take my knight and play rook e1, so that whenever he takes the knight, it's just favourable for me, and then I can just like slowly build up, because he just can't really do very much about the position. But I played this, and luckily he didn't take the knight. I think he miscalculated that variation, same as me, and he kind of bottled out. And then I took my opportunity to get my queen off this diagonal.
Finally,
it'd been like bothering me for a while. Exactly. I just did not like that bishop knight up against my queen. And now a lot of the variations now, again, if he takes now, then he's in. Then I've got this f6 idea, and this is going to be very dangerous, because then the queen's coming in, and it's just going to be a checkmating attack. So he couldn't really take it anymore. So he tried knight b6. I just played b3 to cover this move, but it was a bit of a calm move. I think at this stage there's not much he can really do. Here I actually missed the forced checkmate.
Queen f6.
You see, look, you should be a grandmaster yourself. Yeah, queen f6. Queen. I mean, the move I played was completely winning, but this was stronger. And the main idea is to sort of back it up with knight g5.
Oh yeah.
And then obviously he takes it, queen g7 checkmate. And if he takes the knight, go on, test your tactical skills. If you can find the checkmating continuation.
Oh, that's interesting. Let's see for a second. It is. Is it? No, it cannot. No, it has to be queen takes f5, I guess.
I mean, queen takes f5 probably works, but I think there's a forced. There's a forced move, even better move, better way to continue.
Oh wow!
I'll put you on the spot. You on the spot.
Lovely. No, I'm happy about that. So, I'm seeing knight g5 check, and then the queen.
Good, knight g5, and if they capture your knight,
queen to h6, but I don't.
There you go.
It is actually working. Yeah, of course. Queen takes the knight. That's
exactly,
what I was missing all the
very
time.
Good.
Yeah, nice.
Perfect. Yeah, nice. Exactly, nice finish. So, okay, there are other variations. Black could try, but that would have been a forced mate. So, well done. So, queen f6 would have been it. But
just the last question, if I may ask, what happens after knight to g8 in this?
King to g8. King g8. Yeah, I think you can just threaten.
Not knight. I'm sorry. I meant the rook to g8 after queen f6. Pardon.
Okay, let's have a look at rook to so queen f6
and rook to
g8. I wonder if we can take the knight. Do you think is there a problem with that?
Yes,
maybe we can take the knight.
That looks really, really good. Yeah,
it looks dangerous. I wouldn't want to be black anyway.
The checkmate on g5 is ahead. Yeah. Oh, exactly. Beautiful.
It'll be a nice finish.
Okay, good. Nice. I didn't see that. No, wow, nice. Okay, anyway,
some nice tactics anyway. Nice tactics in there. But anyway, I played rook d1, and I knew that then this was going to be strong for me, because there's some lines I've got rook d8 ideas, and especially with the queen, if the queen comes in, rook d8. So he tried rook h8, and I just traded off this knight because it was his good defender, threatening now just to come in.
Checkmate,
this checkmating idea, and pawn takes knight allows rook h6. So he had to play bishop takes knight, pawn takes, and now I think I've just got too much pressure here.
Lovely position.
Yeah, it's just horrible for him. Takes bishop here, threatening just bishop g6, and if he defends with the rook, I can just take this pawn.
Yeah, nice.
And then this has got to be winning. So
Yes.
he tried to defend. He tried to defend with the with the knight, and again there's loads of wins, but I just played rook d7 and then I'm winning the knight, and he resigned.
Wow, Nick,
So
that must have been the game where you were feeling like, all right, I got this.
well, yeah, actually, after I won that game, I was then joint leader, and so suddenly I felt, I think because of the first 4 games, it just felt like a bit of a drag where I was really struggling to actually win against a strong player. Finally gives you a bit of belief that maybe I could win this tournament. But it was also one of those tournaments where nobody was really kind of pushing ahead, and the next round I played against Andrew Ledger, who'd actually been playing fantastic chess. I mean, he won against Mark Hebden earlier in the tournament. He held a draw with Marcus Harvey, who's a very strong player. And then I think the following round after this, he won the game against Danny Gormally. So he was really playing, well above his level. And he's like a very good player. He's got a good opening repertoire. I used to play in sort of teams with him for, I don't know, over 20 years, a long time. He was in a similar area to me. We played against him, so I played him a lot of times. And we got to this position where I just flipped the board. I felt like I was, I felt like I was trying to beat him. I felt, and he was sort of trying to kind of hold the balance. And he played this move rook d7. And I think he just overlooked my idea of playing rook a6 and simply threatening to check and pick off the f2 pawn. So then he had to basically backtrack and go rook back to d4. And at this point, I was thinking, okay, is there like something I can do here to sort of cause him problems? Because it's still quite a solid position, even though he's blundered, or sort of mini blundered, wasting this time with rook d7, rook d4. And so obviously the best move I think would have actually just been to play something like simple like rook check. But I sort of saw that this position, although it was probably marginally better for me, it's still like quite hard to win. So I was trying to look for something that was going to be more decisive. And I came up with this idea of playing bishop h6. And my idea with bishop h6 is that I want to play rook check and win the f pawn. And if he defends with, say, rook f1, for example, then I can play rook check, king g2, and then I can take this pawn. This was my idea. And I thought, okay, it's actually not that easy for him to defend against his bishop h6 move, threatening rook f6, and if he plays king g2, I just take on e3. So this I thought was a bit awkward for him. But then I saw, okay, he can play knight d6, and it's like very frustrating because it just blocks my plan. I can't get my rook into the into the attack. So then I came up with another idea. I thought, okay, what I'll do is I'll play this move rook b6, which was a bit of a kind of like semi bluff, but my threat is, I mean, let's say just play something random, for example. My threat is to play rook c5, hitting the knight, and then if he defends it, I got check, for example, and then I'm winning material because my bishop hits his rook and his knight's under attack. And
excellent.
He's got this threat, and similarly knight here. I guess I can just play
so
check
with forming and formulating all those plans and attacks and stuff.
So this rook b6 so this was the idea. So then I thought, okay, he's forced to take this pawn. Okay, so he's forced to, and then if I play rook c5, he can play rook here, then he can play a4 and try to hang on to the knight. So I thought he's forced to take the pawn, and I didn't see like a winning variation after rook c5. But I thought, now I can play my bishop h6 move with my idea of playing rook f6, and he doesn't have knight d6 anymore because his rook's moved to a4. So it was a bit of a weird plan, but I basically just kind of gambited the pawn on.
Though I like pawn. It. Very creative.
Just set the trap, and he didn't have very long left. It's like 40 moves of time control. So I thought this is a real chance for me to unsettle him. And so I played this, and then he came up with this really strong move, and I was just very frustrated. He now played the move knight d4, which I just, for some reason, I just didn't really see it coming. And so then the idea is, if I play this check, which I had originally intended, king here and takes, now he starts getting all this counterplay against my king and check, and I thought, okay, this has to start to look like a bit dangerous. So maybe my king, I might get in trouble here. My own king might get in trouble. And it was just really frustrating that I felt like I tricked him, but he sort of had all these, he kind of got away with it slightly. And yeah, I didn't really like the look of this position. I think the computer thinks it's still a draw after this, but yeah, I just thought, okay, starting to look a bit double-edged. And I also was getting low on time, so in the end I bailed out with rook takes pawn and rook takes rook, and yeah, we just ended up in this drawn ending. So yeah, it was a bit of a frustrating one, really. That yeah, I felt like I tricked him, but it didn't work. It didn't work. He held the draw. Yeah.
Nice so what? There that. And how many rounds were left then?
Only 2 rounds left, at this stage, everyone was like bunching up. So there was actually 5 players now were joint first.
Super tight, yeah.
Really tight tournament, and I played against Joe McPhillips, who was actually he was actually half a point behind, and then the other 4 were playing each other, and he actually offered me like a pretty quick draw in this game, but I knew I wasn't going to take it because the other games were. I thought at least one of those would be decisive, maybe 2 will be decisive, and then people are going to be ahead of me with 1 round to go. So you got to like try and win the games.
Sure.
And so I played this game, and knight takes, and I played this move e3. He doesn't play knight takes very often. I don't know if I saw any games of his. E4 was the main move, and I think that's one of the moves I cover in one of my DVDs. But I thought he might have prepared for it, so I tried this e3 move, just to sort of sidestep that preparation.
Yes, that's important.
Yeah, and he played here takes, and queen c7, which is quite a rare line. And the main move here was bishop d2, and I knew that, but I thought, okay, he's going to know bishop d2. But I remember seeing a game Magnus Carlsen played against Duda, where he played this move rook b1, which was quite adventurous. And after knight d7, this was the Carlsen game, he played bishop d3. And my opponent actually said he was afraid of c4 in the game, which is also another idea. He played bishop d3, and after queen takes, he played king f1.
Yes, that is crazy.
And then his idea was to develop his rook with h4 and rook h3, black castled, and he went for a really quick attack. And he actually won in just 18 moves against Duda. I think knight f6 was not the right move, and he just went all out for the attack. Something like that, just quickly shirt you, and then he sacked the bishop. And then queen here, and I think Duda resigned already because let's say he plays some move, queen f4 is a threat, threatening take on h6 with mate, and knight here, knight takes, and it would have been game over. So I thought, okay, if a player as strong as Duda loses in 18 moves in this line, it's got to be like worth a go. So you got to give it a go, and it was a kind of must win situation for me anyway. So I thought, okay, I'm going to play the sacrifice, and he thought for a while, and then he took my pawn. And I thought, okay, there we go. We go. I thought, okay, like I've got 4 pieces developed. He's got anything developed, so I was quite happy with it. I didn't know any theory at this point, but I was quite happy with the position in general. And then he played that bizarre move here, and I just assumed he was going to play something like knight c6. He now played queen d8, and I think my brother sent a message to me after the game saying, how can someone with such a good rating play so many queen moves?
You're right.
It's like the basics of chess. But I was a bit surprised. I was a bit surprised by that move. I mean, the other queen moves were understandable because he was grabbing the pawn, but this one was a bit. I think it's like one step too much, really, just going back to the starting square. So castled. I was considering whether there was any merit in trying to do Carlsen's h4 idea, but at the end I just went for castles, and just tried to find some way to put pressure on him here. And if he takes on d4 now, I think it's going to be bad news for him. Queen check, knight c6, and there's a number of winning lines here, but one of them is just like bishop a5. Because if I take the pawn now with the queen, he can have bishop d7. So I try to just get the queen out of the way, so that when I can take the pawn with check and take his rook, and then he just can't keep protection of the pawn. And you can just rook d8 ideas. You can just see it's just horrible. I mean, none of his pieces developed, and it's just going to be carnage. So he couldn't take that pawn, and he played bishop e7, knight e5, and again. He did take in a pawn, and there were so many winning lines here, and I think the strongest was queen h5, the computer said afterwards, but bishop c3 was actually the move I had intended in the game. And my idea was if he plays knight f5, which is more or less forced to because bishop c5. Well, I had at least some ideas of knight f7 and
Queen
queen
h5 again.
Yeah. I saw I at least had that. But I think even stronger than that was just simply queen a4 and then just queen c4, and then I think he's dropping a piece because I'm hitting the knight and the bishop, and so I think that was even stronger.
Wow, what a fun opening.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, fun for me.
Yes.
So I think knight f5. So this was the line I had looked at: queen a4, and then if he plays bishop d7, I thought I'd just take. And I thought this position is just horrible for black, isn't it?
Wow,
so many tactical ideas, and it's just really bad for him. So this was the general idea. I thought it was just very strong. And if it's to play king f8. Then I'm only one pawn down, and his king's still in the middle, and
it just must be difficult in positions like this to, with all those options, to find the one which is like to your delight the greatest or something, I guess, because there's so many variations, so many tactics, so many nice things to do.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, sometimes you're almost like spoiled for choice, aren't you? When there's only one line to play, you just have to find it. When you got so many good lines, sometimes you can mess it up. So you have to be a bit careful. Yes. But I mean, most of the options were just really strong for me. And he should. I think he was supposed to play castles here, but I had intended queen c2, and I think this is just really uncomfortable for him because rook d1. This is my intention, and his queen doesn't really have any squares. It can't really come out to the queen side anywhere. And I think he was supposed to play bishop d7, but that's quite a hard move to play, putting your bishop in line, and it's just horrible. Yeah. So I thought queen e8 was what I had been looking at, and I looked at rook b3, and I thought this looks really dangerous. Yeah, with the rook swing, and there's no. I mean, if you go to queen a4, it's sort of sometimes watch out for this move as well, and this kind of stuff happening, and So I thought this was just horrible for him anyway. So actually, when he played queen d4, that was actually, although it was not the best move, it was actually what I had expected him to play. And I think I came up with quite a good move here, because if I play like queen e2, sort of simply like queen e2, then he can castle, and although it's still good for me, it's not like completely over.
Yeah.
So I came up with the move queen c2, which I think was stronger.
Yes.
And just because just dissuading from castling, because I can just take the h pawn. And I thought the e pawn is not so important, because at the end of the day, I'm just going to try and make.
I mean, you have a couple of pawns less anyway, so that one doesn't matter anymore that much either.
Exactly, I could get something like this, and now he can't get castled because pressure on the bishop, and then I've got the check coming, and it's just just like a world of pain for black, isn't it? I used to play these positions. I used to play this line in the French defense, where you put the king on f8. And I remember they played queen to g4, you put the king on f8. And I remember having this rook on h8, and just thinking like, the whole game, how do you get the rook out into the game? It's just so hard to get this rook into the game. I remember having some painful experiences with it, and I thought, okay, it's nice when it's the other way around, and someone else is trying to figure out how to get this rook into the game. So, not me. So
that's how it feels.
So I thought, okay, well, my goal was obviously just to stop him from castling at all costs, really. So then he'd play bishop d7, and but now he to get castled, he has to give the rook up, and then it's kind of over. But I thought his plan here, I thought he had one last little trick to try and save himself, was to go rook d8, bishop b6, rook b8, bishop c7, and now to play bishop d6.
Yeah, mate threat,
threatening the mate and forcing the trade. The main point being, if he goes bishop d6 now, I can play f4. And he hasn't got a check because my bishop covers the checks. So I thought, okay, he'll wait for my bishop to come to 7, then he'll play here. If I play f4, he's got a check. So I thought this was his plan. But anyway, I thought after takes and rook here, it's just like horrible for him anyway, because if because queen e7, I've got queen c7 and queen here. I thought at least bishop c6, maybe there's something stronger, and we're going to get this kind of position. And he can't get his king out because king here, rook check, and he's going to have to go back basically, and he's still playing with this rook on h8. So it's just so nice when someone else has got the rook out of the game, not me. And I thought this is just like it's got to be strong for me, this position. It's permanent difficulty getting the rook into the game. But I thought that's what he was going to try. But anyway, he just so if I just go back to the game, he just gave up the exchange, and then it was just over really. And here, and then he just blundered his queen. I don't know if he did it on purpose or not. Probably just did it on
Oh.
purpose, just to finish the game. But I think it was over anyway. Queen here, for example, queen. This is one example line, and losing the bishop. So it was a pretty kind of crushing win, really.
Nice.
And that sort of brings us on to the last round game, and the last. The last round was tense. So just to give you a kind of rundown of the situation, Andrew Ledger had pulled off an amazing victory against Danny Gormally. I think Danny is one of those players who is very, very strong player, but can get quite nervous when the stakes are high. And he probably thought that game against Andy Ledger was a chance for him to obviously put himself in pole position to win the British, and unfortunately didn't play a very good game. So myself and Andy were joint first going into the last round, and then Marcus Harvey and Mark Hebden were half a point behind. So I had to play Marcus with black, which is quite a tough pairing because Marcus is quite a strong player, up and coming player, and he's he's likely to become a Grandmaster very soon, in my opinion. And Andrew Ledger actually played a weaker opponent. He played a opponent Hamish Olsen, who's 2270, but seemed to play. He seemed to actually play quite. At the time, I was a bit upset about the pairings. I thought, okay, I would have preferred it if he'd also got someone like 2460 or something. Not a 2070, but he had played. To be fair, he played quite well at tournament, and so I was trying to work out my game strategy, and if you're joint at the end of the tournament, you play the playoff, and Mark Hebden then was down floating to Keith Arkell, so he was half point behind. So I thought, okay, if I win, I'm in a very strong position. But I thought even if I draw, it's actually I'm actually in quite a good position, because the players I was probably most afraid of in the blitz and rapid play tiebreak were Marcus, who's a very strong blitz player, and Danny Gormally, who's obviously very good at rapid as well. And I thought if I draw, I basically knock both those players out of the contention for rapid play playoff. So they're probably the two players that would be most dangerous at the fast time control. So I thought, okay, draw is not too bad, but obviously if Andy wins, then that's no good. But if Andy draws and I play rapid play against Andy Ledger, I thought, okay, obviously he can lose, but I felt like I was probably the favourite. And there's still Mark Hebden could still join us, but he'd have to win with black against Keith Arkell, which is quite a tough ask as well. So I thought, okay, a draw is probably going to leave me the favourite, but obviously, I'm a bit scared that Andy Ledger wins with black against 2270. So I couldn't go for a quick draw, but I didn't want to be too crazy. So when he played d4, I sort of had considered my opening choices, and one of the openings that I like to play is the Dutch. And I've done a sort of DVD on that, and I enjoyed that, but it's quite a very risky opening, and Marcus sometimes plays it himself. So I thought, okay, given that a draw is not a disaster for me, I thought I sort of resisted the temptation to play it here. Go for something a bit more solid, because I thought, the situation didn't really call for it. It wasn't. Yeah,
certain openings are for certain situations. I mean, that's what you also always mention in DVDs, the two Aaron Fritz trainers, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I think if it'd been the other way around, if I'd been half a point behind Marcus and I had to win this game, I probably would just play it, because I think it's all or nothing. You give it a go, and it's probably not going to be a draw, but draw is same as a loss anyway. So you just give it a go. Whereas in this situation, I decided to play something more solid. Anyway, I sort of skip past the opening because I know you're sort of running low on time. I get to this point, and this was actually the point. Actually, here we're coming up to move 40, and I saw that Ledger's game had finished. And I tried actually not to watch his game, because I just thought, okay, I'm just going to play out my own game and see what happens. And my game was always
don't bother about the other things. Keep your mind steady about that. Yeah,
there's just enough to worry about in your own game, and it was pretty close to level the whole way through. But obviously, the stakes are high, and it was a little bit double edged. And Marcus was trying to win the end game. You could see he was trying to play, keep it double edged himself. He didn't want to also allow it just to sort of peter out into a draw. So he was trying to win. I was sort of just trying not to lose, but at the same time, I didn't want to completely rule out the chance of winning, because I might have to win myself. I played on. Then I saw it finish. I thought, okay, Andy lost. So I thought, okay, this is a great result for me. So now if I draw, the worst case scenario is is a playoff with Mark Hebden for the title, and I might not even have to do that because he wasn't necessarily going to win. So yeah, at this stage I started to get like a bit nervous. Like, hey, it's just like that. Yeah, don't mess it up. And I'm not sure.
You're so close.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I checked him. Yeah, he played King C1. King C3 was one line I looked at. Yeah, so my mentality changed to just okay, a draw is absolutely fine now. This was one line I looked at D3, and I thought if he takes the pawn. Rook G1, this was my intention. I don't know if there was something stronger, and I'm threatening. I've got this idea of basically winning his rook by playing D2, and so I was trying to work out what was going on in these lines, where he basically, I mean, he can just check me back and forwards if he wants to make a draw, but where and if he puts a king to C file, I've always got the rook to C1 check, so he can't actually stop me from winning his rook other than by giving a perpetual check. So I was trying to work out what would happen if he basically just sacrificed his rook for the pawn, and I hadn't really figured out this ending. I thought like it should be a draw because my king is quite close.
Yes,
and his pawns are not too far advanced, so I shouldn't really be losing. And there's probably also some variations where he can overpress and lose. But yeah, I think that when I checked afterwards, it was a draw. But I was trying to just analyze this during the game. I think this was supposed to be a draw, and if for example King B5, because this is just one example when it's just going to be an easy draw, I can just sacrifice and here take and take. So I saw I had this idea of playing when I played this check. I saw I had this idea of playing this D4 D3 and maybe forcing him to take a repetition. So yeah, he probably saw that idea as well, and he went for King C1. So King D3, threatening the mate, King B1, and then King C4. And yeah, now I thought take. This was the line I looked at was takes, King B5, A6, and I think I'm in time just to come and get this pawn. And okay, he can get he can go rook D6 and get. But okay, I was confident I could hold this. I could hold this. I can hold this ending if I have to. Yeah. So there might be like other ways of drawing more easily. But okay, this is easy draw. So yeah, I saw that, and I thought, okay, if he tries to come with the king, then I'm in time to hold this ending because. Yeah, quite easily in time I can just play king here and So I said, okay, this move was
got everything covered.
Everything was covered. Yeah, so because at this stage I was just thinking, okay, like draw, just get the draw. Don't mess it up.
Sure.
So anyway, he played rook b6. So he's trying to keep it double-edged, and now I played h5. So I thought it can be useful. H pawn can be quite useful distraction in some positions, and he played a6, and so stopped the pawn. Rook g7. I think rook g8 was another move I could have played, and now he played b4, which for me. After he played b4, I was actually very optimistic I wasn't going to lose after b4 because
there we have an umbrella now.
Yeah, then I thought I was safe, exactly. Yeah, but I think rook b7 was the move I was expecting, and then check. And then my idea of this was if he goes to c2, then I come around the back and save the time that way.
Yeah.
And if he goes to a2, then I go rook here and I pick up a tempo of his king. If he plays a7, then compared to playing, then I pick up the check here. Compared to, for example, if I just played rook g6 now, then it's like one tempo worse if I'm checking his king.
Yes.
That was my idea, was that I would check the king first and then come back and try and gain another tempo of his king. And so he could try b3, but this was one line I was trying to calculate, but I figured that I'm probably drawing. I'm sure it was drawing with best play, but I just got to be like a little bit careful in some of these positions, not to this is one of the lines where it could get a little bit tricky, but okay, it should just be a draw. Just get rid of this annoying a pawn and just once I take the a pawn, then it's going to be it's going to be a draw
again.
Yeah, exactly. You can just relax because until then you just don't know if you're gonna mess it up or not. But after b4, h4, rook b7, now I've got a chance actually to lay a trap and potentially, I sort of saw this chance for glory, a chance to actually win the game. After a7, h3, if he plays the move rook b8, this was like a little trap that I was sort of setting up. I thought if he's absolutely desperate to win, because obviously win for him would make him British champion, then I can play h2 and takes and queen. And then there's loads of variations where he gets in trouble here. So his idea, obviously, he wants to get the tempo to queen, but he just can't get it. So if he goes king a3, for example, I can check, and then if he tries to run up the board, I just I'll be mating him quite quickly. Exactly, yeah. So it'll be quite nice. And if he goes back with the number of ways to win, I don't even need to take a repetition here. I can actually just step in, threaten to checkmate him on c2, and then okay, there's other ways of winning. And then this kind of position actually is winning for me, I think. There's actually, because I can force the queens off, something like this, for example, threatening the mates, and he has to trade queens and lose. Yeah, it's quite nice. And yeah, there's no defense here.
No queen a2 because king goes to c1, right?
Yeah, this is quite funny. You could try queen here, go for stalemate, but then I could just exactly, trade the queens off, and win that way. So
there you got
yeah, it's true. Yeah, but I'll probably play for more in that position. Yeah. And then okay, and then I think it was also like king c1, queen here, and again, this is annoying for him. The only way to stop the mate is to allow queen, like queen a6, and I trade the queens, or queen c6, I trade the queens. So he's just it's just lost here. So I saw this at that moment, that this way of potentially winning, but obviously he spotted 2, and he bailed out with rook h7, and then we just got to some easily drawn rook and pawn ending, and agreed to draw. So it was then it was a bit of a tense wait after that, because Mark Hebden was still playing on. Ooh. And he had a better position against Keith Arkell, but Keith managed to hold the draw, and it was the champion. So
everything played in your favor, luckily, also too.
I mean, I was very lucky. All the results in the last round went my way, especially the Andy Ledger losing. That was really sort of unexpected bonus for me. Anyway, like I said, there have been other years where I played well and not won, so probably
I think you definitely deserve it, Nicholas. Come on, like seriously, it was about time. And you played a very, very good tournament. That was super enjoyable. You can unshare the screen. Don't worry. It is that was super interesting and very insightful. And I just can once again say congratulations. You have done that. That is amazing. All the Fritz trainers of yours are below the video. So if you enjoyed that too, and if you like Nick as much as we all do, then support him too a bit and get those Fritz trainers. And there will be some more Fritz trainers coming in the near future, I hope. And so that was about that. Nick, anything that you want to say in the very end about this tournament?
Yeah, just a quick thanks to obviously all the organizers who put it together at the last minute. I know it was supposed to take place in the summer, and then he delayed it to October, and they had to hold it in the whole university. But it was really they're really good conditions, actually. I mean, I was a bit wary having to travel all the way to Hull, but it was great. It was all organized nicely and all on campus, so everything was convenient. And I think they did a good job of the tournament. And they may be a bit unfortunate not to get more people to attend, but that was just due to the kind of current situation with everything that's going on. So
yeah, excellent.
It was good, but I was lucky to win, and obviously a lot of other players could potentially have been there a year as well. So obviously I'm sure Danny Gormally was up there, Marcus Harvey, Mark Hebden, Andy Ledger. They're all up there at certain points. So I was lucky that it ended up being me in the end.
Well, okay, well played anyway, Nick. That was super, super nice. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. And see you people another day. Bye.
Okay, thanks, Sam. Thanks. Goodbye.